podcast. We are back to old recording formats of one microphone in Dave's living room. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
What are we here to talk about, Dave?
We're going to talk about 97 Poets of Revachol. Jesus, that's a bad start, isn't it?
Revachol?
Revachol, I think it's pronounced. I do know that. I'm being an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I didn't even get the booklet. Hold on.
God. Oh, Dave, why are you farting so much?
No, that's the couch. I was like, do you know what? This is going to be really fun because I can just sit back and you can ask me questions. But no, you're just going to troll me the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be honest. I've got no idea what this LARP's about. I have no idea about... Because it was based off Disco Elysium, right?
Yeah, which is an amazing game which you've never played.
No.
And therefore, this is like... I can't be like, oh, Disco Elysium. And you go, oh, I understand that frame of reference.
No.
So this is going to be one of those Ian-type episodes where I'm probably going to talk for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And then ever so often, Millie will wake up and be like, oh, what about this? As is her right.
Yeah.
Right, I want to get like... We're going to do a public service announcement before we begin. Oh, God, this LARP is incredible, but it does deal with some pretty fucking serious adult themes. And basically, I don't want anyone listening to this to wander into this and then end up having like something horrible that will trigger a memory or something terrible or make them feel bad. So, things we are going to talk about include addiction, racism and immigration, old age, disability, class and politics, and death.
Excellent.
You'll be happy to hear that this is a LARP in Prague, that there is no essay at all. Okay.
Well,
so that's good.
I did actually. So I did read a little bit of the briefing document for this, just so that I could. I don't know anything about it. It was very confusing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I was a big thing about the fact that there was no physical representation of essay or any kind of tolerance for that, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah. It's just honestly, it doesn't really fit into the game and the themes that they want to play. Like now I've played a few of these games and they're made by Rolling is the name of the group.
Yeah.
They're based in Czechia. And the more games I play, the more I'm kind of picking up on the themes and the way they approach games and all this stuff. So it's still kind of like the same core team that were at Legion that I went to. I didn't record an episode for Legion because I wanted to just do the LARP and not do a podcast. But
that was what was that? It was like
that was January.
Yeah,
that was a World War One about the Czech Legion escaping through the entirety of Russia. And it was very, very brutal. It was like a 20-something K march in the ice and snow. Savage.
Yeah, it sounded amazing, but I would never. It's very much a thing that I'm glad that you experienced, mainly so that I don't have to.
I am one of those. I'm glad I experienced it. Was I happy all the time throughout it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was miserable. Anyway, that's another episode. So. Right, other public service announcements. If you are listening to the podcast for the first time and you don't know anything about what we do here, we tend to talk about the event and how the person who got on.
We tend to do like a recap episode, like what we did and like how the storyline progressed and things like that, right?
Exactly. I'm planning on doing it in fairly in order of things of how they happened. It's going to be very me-centric because I was the person experiencing this stuff. I may not mention your character or mention an interaction that we had as players. That doesn't mean that I didn't appreciate every single interaction that I had. But I just want to make that clear before going in case some people like to listen and be like, oh, he's going to bring up that one thing that happened.
Yeah.
And I might not. And I don't want to take that away from anyone, you know. No. Also, I'm going to retell my version of what happened. Which may be different from your memories of what happened, and therefore, like, I don't want to take away anyone's memories or reframe them of things that happened because it was such a wonderful event, and I think everybody got like a big emotional thing out of it. And then finally, I may, in fact, I'll probably go as far as to say I will probably get genders wrong. This is something that I work on, but I certainly don't want to deliberately misgender someone or make them feel bad for being misgendered. I'm going to try my best, and I have every good intention, but it might happen. But I honestly, I'm going to try my best.
Did they have characters that were agender or not assigned any particular gender?
I would like to say almost all the characters were non-gender specific.
Nice.
Pretty much all of them. Like, there's a couple of characters that have very feminine names, which are like, but I feel like you could probably do pretty much any of the characters. Like, gender wasn't necessarily a main, like a theme of the event, right? So, and what's nice about the LARP community is there are many different people from many different walks of life, with many different identities, and they all come together and they play as different characters, and even those characters have lots of interesting things about them.
Yeah, I think if we do get any genders or any details wrong, simply like comment down below, and we'll happily be corrected and things like that. I think that might be.
At the event, they had proname badges, which made the whole
thing
so good. A lot easier. This is a really big conversation. We could even do a whole conversation on LARP and identity. It's more like this is more like a public service announcement, just to be like, hey, I don't want to upset anybody, really.
Yeah,
so.
If we get any details wrong or anything, it's not intentional. It's not that we are being ignorant. It's that we simply made a mistake.
Anyway, we are fucking hell. This is gonna be a long episode.
Hello, tangent.
Jesus.
So
I can hear people going like, get to the episode already.
Okay, quick question: Is this one of those LARPs that has the same storyline and they repeat the events over and over again?
So this one had when I arrived, they give you this handy little booklet, which I have in front of me, which I've written all over because I figured I could write notes on this. And what it does is it gives you like not only like a short description of your character, some more details, which are amazing, like we'll talk about that later, but it also gives you a schedule. Okay,
oh my god,
so you literally have like things to do, which is in a personal column and a public column. So these two things are kind of like guidelines for where you should be and what you should be doing. There's lots of free time in those, so you can kind of do lots of stuff, but I've written all over it.
This is amazing.
But the amount of work that goes into this, and the way, because James Hewitt from Fancy Nuts podcast, he came along, and we were talking about like the characters, and it was like, God, these characters are like so like a lot of the stuff in them just makes sense, and their relationships. So it's like, if you think of this giant lattice of characters and relationships and internal struggle and like communal struggles, family struggles. It's like we were like, oh yeah, it's almost like they thought about it, and it's like, yeah, they almost certainly like, but like to kind of step away from it now to see this, like I said, like a lattice of potential interactions of how those characters approach stuff. It's pretty mind blowing. I would be, as all with these things, I'm always curious to see how other LARPs would potentially like run with the same characters and the same setups. But in this LARP, there were some very, very specific things that were set in stone, as this happens now, and this is what happens here. It also had a thing where at the end of the LARP, basically, you know what, we'll go through it in order. But just to give you a brief overview of who my character was, I was Francis Gessel. Nice. It's probably not pronounced Gessel, but we ended up all pronouncing it as Gessel.
How do you spell it?
Gessle.
Nice.
Gessel?
Gessel? I don't know. Francis Gessel.
Francis Gessel. I'm old. I'm really, really old. Not only am I old, but I'm an alcoholic.
Oh, good. Delightful.
So, and even in the brief, it talks about how not only is his mind broken, his body is broken.
Oh.
And like, I've played kind of characters with like an illness or something before, and it's really fucked me up.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm mentally myself in like an amazing place right now. Like, I'm really physically fit. My mind's like in really, really like purring like a kitten right now. And that really helped get into this character, because I could go really, really deep into the dark places with this character and explore things about myself and all sorts of things that were like genuinely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like really heartbreaking.
It can be quite hard, like inhabiting quite a negative mental space and physical space for like numerous days. Right,
yes,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think if I wasn't in as a good a place physically and mentally at the moment, that probably would have hurt me a lot more.
Yeah.
Like there are some really nice safety valves at this place. So there is a room you can go go and chill out and just and talk to someone or just have a hug and some biscuits, which I actually didn't take them up on, which I should have done. But actually no, I was fine. I was actually good. But it would have
it's
been...
good that the safeguarding is in place. If
and good. Like there's they know what they're doing basically. I'm sure whatever you would go to them with isn't like they've seen this before and they know kind of how to handle it. So I'll briefly go over poor Francis's life. Okay.
Oh.
And I have to go through some like history of Revachol, okay? For those that you haven't played the game, so I can explain it to you.
Yeah,
right.
I'm enjoying this already.
So, Revachol is like, think of it like it was like Venice, like a big trade hub, like a city-state, and it's surrounded by these quite large other nations, and they all kind of they all are vying for power and all this stuff. There's this thing called, instead of a sea, there's a thing called the Pale.
Whoa.
Okay?
Oh, okay.
And the Pale is like the sea, but if you stare at it for too long, you go completely insane.
Okay.
Like, you can only cross it so many times a year, or like with a license, you can only go across it so many times because you will literally fall apart mentally by doing it. There's lots of stuff to talk about with that. I'm going to go through it like what Francis knows, and I'm going to try and avoid I don't think I'm going to bring up any spoilers, so you should be fine. But like, I think I'm good. Having thought about it for the last couple of weeks, I think I'm pretty good in just sticking to what is core information. Anyway, so Revachol, this beautiful beacon, it's very, very shiny. There are these things called the Innocents. These are people who are like amazeballs. Okay, so one is like oh my god, now we're getting into it. I didn't write down the names of the different ones. One's like she's about innovation and all of that stuff and bettering yourself through technology and all that stuff. She had these lungs, like one of her symbols is literally lungs, golden lungs, because at one point her lungs lit up and
oh my god,
the world's fucking bonkers and amazing. There's another one who was like a dude and he was all about that war. And basically, he was an innocent that like managed to do a lot of conquering and war. And then there's another innocent. Oh god, I wish I could remember their names. But the last one is like when they got raised. I think it's like sainthood. You get raised up to innocence or whatever. But they refused to talk. They didn't. They chose not to speak about it, and it's like, wow, how interesting.
So what, as in like they chose not to speak for their entire life, or just after they'd been raised up to be?
They chose not to. I think when they got raised up, they chose not to guide or speak or any of that stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically there's a church, and this has become like a religion of these people, which is very important to the people of Revachol.
So the Innocents are like little deities now.
Yeah, but more like the religious side of things is a lot less like, we would think about it like an Abrahamic religion, where it's just like there's a god, and these, think of them more like prophets or wise people rather than. But there's this lovely thing about Disco Elysium where the real and fantasy or supernatural merge together, where you don't really know what's real and what's not, right? So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is like, is that real? Is that not real? What is the Pale? Why is it there? Why does it send people cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like... lots of questions. And I think, like, literally, if we had a room full of Disco Elysium fans here, they might disagree, and it would become like a philosophical conversation about it. So, Revachol, the innocence, okay? Everything's hunky-dory. Until it isn't. There is a, like, 60 years ago or something, maybe more than that. So I think it's around 40 years ago, whatever the hell it is.
A certain period of time.
When our dear Francis would have been alive. There was a communist revolution. Communists overthrew whatever was in charge, and they decided to have this very like a socialist state. And weirdly, it worked, unlike a lot of the any real world examples. But then what happened was the coalition, which was made up of the other nations in the world, decided that's not very good. We're going to bomb and like destroy Revachol. So they killed like 2 million people.
Oh my God.
And devastated this. And Francis would have been alive for this. So I had to kind of think about where was Francis while this was happening. So then after that, is it the Commonwealth or the Coalition, I think it's called, they came in and basically acted like the UN. So they give like money to help revigorate Revachol, but really it's kind of under the boot of you're never going to be able to rise above where we want you to be. There's a lot of poverty.
It's like they're coming in and saying, we'll give you the resources to rebuild as long as you don't get any great ideas of becoming a different kind of...
as long as you don't ever like actually rise above this, right? This has led to kind of law and order is very squishy. So you have a group, it's the RCM is what they're called, and they're basically like the cops, but I think they're volunteers, and they vary between precinct and precinct. So some of them might be really corrupt, some of them might actually be there to help. But really, the law and order where we were, which is La Cage, which is spelt like La Cage.
Nice.
Nice. We have a local union group, workers' union, and they are basically a gang. Okay. So very corrupt. They kind of like have the dictate on violence, right? If something happens, they're going to be the ones to step in, either wrongly or rightly. They're the kind of, unofficial strong people in society. But the RCM are actually there potentially to do good, but a lot of mistrust. They also tend to work with the coalition, so there's obviously resentment towards that because they killed 2 million people. Right, let's keep on with Francis's happy tale.
How old is Francis?
I put Francis at anywhere between, like, I put him at like 65 to 75.
Oh, Jesus,
ballpark. But also just ravaged by alcohol and life and lack of medical care and just like a broken man. So Francis was doing his thing. He met a lady who was an immigrant, and they ended up getting married so she could get a green card or whatever the equivalent would be. They ended up having 2 children together, which were Ember and Marie. And
I love Ember as a name. It's just so good. Sorry, carry on.
Ember was baller. But so we weren't necessarily in love to start with, but then when we had kids, this new thing blossoms in us, and I end up falling madly in love with my wife, and everything's great. Like, Ember's a little headstrong. Marie's very smart and doing well. Like, everything's good. And then my wife dies in a accident in the sweatshop.
Oh no!
And Francis didn't take this too well. So he ended up basically drinking himself into an oblivion. Ember was a bit stronger and independent, so kind of looked after themselves while Francis was off having these benders. And this guy called Tony, who was one of Francis's friends. He's a school teacher. Ended up kind of taking Marie under his wing and raising her instead of me.
Okay.
And that was a big bone of contention that obviously this kind of represents like Francis's greatest regret is not being there to be a father to Marie, and how his weakness, I don't know, we're going to talk a lot about stuff, and try not to judge me when I'm talking about this stuff, please, but that he couldn't be there for her, and in fact it was probably better for Marie that she wasn't there, and that's even more heartbreaking because it's like her not being in his life was actually good for her, which sucks. But Marie eventually left. And basically without saying a word, she left because things were so bad when she was old enough to leave. Ember got married and had 2 daughters.
Nice.
Rudy, who's she's just a little sweetie pie. She's lovely.
Aww.
She's a good little girl, and like she's not little. I think she's kind of teenage, young person. Really, really nice, wholesome. And then, and Rain, who's the other daughter. And unfortunately, Rain is very headstrong. And this is a really sad part. Ember's wife also died in a accident in the sweatshops. And that was fairly recently, but because of how Ember became quite volatile, like around the house, like quite aggressive, quite just angry. He's angry at the world, right? So Rain recently left and went to live with the sewer people. Right?
Who are the sewer people?
We'll talk about the sewer people. So at the start of the game, we have Francis and Ember and Rudy are all living together in this little shitty flat in apartment block B. Apartment block B is where all the poor folks live.
Nice.
And it's pretty shit. But it's home, right? Like and like Rudy still has like 4 glasses out with a little bottle on the table so we can all have a drink as a family together one day. And she's really keen on like keeping the flat tidy in case we have like they all come back together as a family. It's like heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Right, let's talk about locations, shall we? So there are a bunch of locations. I'm just gonna quick fire them. There are 2 shops. One is like a general, I think it's called Raffles, and that's like a general purpose stop. You can buy your drugs there. Drugs are legal, by the way. And other things. There is a thrift / pawn shop. That's PAWN.
Get your minds out the gutters.
Yeah, exactly. You filthy. And they basically like you can obviously sell stuff there and all that stuff. Or buy stuff there. There is the Union Workers Place. There is the Books and Therapy Room, which we'll come to. There is also like a chill out room. There's a bar, which is obviously like big for Francis. There is an art room. There are 2 nightclubs.
This is a big site.
It's fucking huge. It's in an old abandoned, no longer abandoned, hospital. That has just got the darkest history you could ever imagine. It was part of like in the Second World War. It was made into a Jewish ghetto. Like this place has a lot of history and a lot of hurt, and it's like one of these. It's an amazing location. It's very run down. It's very dusty still. You posted a photo online of your like little flat, and it was like you had your roll mats on the floor, right? Yeah, because we were apartment block B. I was like, some people had beds, by the way. I know James had a bed. I know, those bastards. how the other half live? Do you know what I mean? Like Christ. So 2 nightclubs, the Bearded Dragon Club, which is like the the original and plays disco.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this club had like a tree in the middle of the room covered in lights. And it was fucking trippy and amazing.
Yeah.
And then the other club, which is called literally The Second Club, because it's the second club. And that's like... that's hardcore. Like they play like hard trance, and
oh my God,
it's really heavy, and like they those gurning fuckers, you know, like it's every I don't know whether this is the same in other countries, but like illegal raves, very illegal rave vibes, okay, you know.
Jesus Christ,
yeah, like really. I think there are other places that I've probably forgotten. Oh, and the sweatshops. I forgot there were actual...
So they actually had the sweatshops there?
There were actual sweatshops, and people actually had to go to work.
No.
And they had a safety rating. So if you work in different ones, some of them might be more dangerous than others.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you could get like injured or whatever, like working in these places. Right.
So poor little Francis. Is living in a one-bed flat with Rudy and Ember.
Correct. Okay. And one of the cool things, I should talk about the workshops as well. There are a lot of workshops.
Okay.
Oh my God, like it's hard to say. I think some of those workshops could be cut down a little bit or condensed or done in slightly different ways, but I still think a lot of them is super, super valid and worthwhile doing.
Yeah. You mean workshops as in like... group activity
I should say this is pre-gaming. This is literally like, so there was like one on politics, one on art, there was one on disco, like dancing, a bunch of other ones. I think they could have been trimmed down a little bit and maybe gone into, but even then some of them felt like we were rushing. Like the political one, like I'm a big political nerd. So like if you want to talk about the difference between like authoritarianism and liberalism or like fascism and communism, right? Like we can talk about that for hours. A lot of people don't nerd out as hard as I do on those things. So I think a few people were kind of like, especially when it comes to the world itself, like understanding what these political organizations are and what they really stand for, which is a big conversation. I think people were a little frustrated that wasn't as clear. But on our little things, we have a political compass.
Nice.
And I looked at mine and was like, well, that's really interesting, because there's a little X and it's right in the middle. Okay, so the angles are left and right, and then up and down is authoritarian and libertarian.
Oh, so you're literally just like shablam in the middle.
In the middle, and then they were like, oh, the circle represents where you can move, like where's your range, and my range is the entire thing. I can go wherever the fuck I want, basically.
That's really exciting though.
Yeah, and it was really interesting. I just thought that was like standard, and then I saw other people's and it was like way different from mine, like really specific or whatever. So at the time, do I need to do any more intro stuff? I don't think so. I felt we had a disco one, and it was quite
one of the workshops.
One disco workshop, and I found this quite interesting because some people were like, "Oh man, I hated that. Like there was no point in doing that," and other people were like, "Man, that helped me more than any other."
Okay, dare I ask what you did in the disco workshop?
So what we do is we have to dance. Which is super totes orcs, just a room full of people being taken into a room and then having to dance. And then we did like dancing with other people. So they told us like, oh, you can mirror other people's dance moves. Yeah. And I'm like, this was the one thing that I was like, oh my God, like I don't, this is... Ugh. It's really weird thing that, isn't it? But they also went into like consent stuff. So they talked about like when you're dancing, holding each other's hands or hugging, and then effectively pushing your cheek to someone else's cheek is like you're snogging or slow dancing.
Oh my!
Yeah, and they also went through the sexy time one, which is basically where you both lie down on the ground. I think you take an item of clothing off. I can't remember. Hey, listen. Francis ain't getting jiggy with anyone, okay? He would literally kill him to do that.
I do find it really interesting that these kind of like European LARPs have those mechanics in place, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's like some people, they love that part of the games. It's something I really am not interested in.
Yeah.
I think there are, but then again, I think I have to remember that there's lots of different people and they come to LARP for different things, and that doesn't mean I'm going to be all pervy. That means like maybe you're exploring stuff that you are not necessarily that confident with in the real world and all that stuff like this. I'm like, obviously I'm a sexual Tyrannosaurus, so I don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I think it's also interesting. Like it's about like, because I'm guessing you had a very you were in an international LARP, so therefore you probably had people from loads of different countries there,
absolutely,
right?
Cultural differences.
Yeah, right. Because like physicality in other cultures and like sexuality and all of that are much more generally accepted in various other places.
I'm like, we're British.
Yeah, right.
We only have sex missionary and then give each other a firm handshake afterwards and say, good day to you. And then you respond with, and a good day to you. As is custom here in the UK. So then... Right, so we went through our workshops. Oh, I forgot to mention the most important thing. I was staying at a hotel.
What?
They give you an option to stay at a hotel.
No.
Praise Jesus.
When you didn't actually sleep in the dusty building with the raw mat on the floor in the cold.
They encouraged you on the Thursday to sleep over. I didn't understand the memo and thought that was the Friday we needed to do that. So at a certain point on Thursday, I headed back to the hotel and had a lovely night's sleep and a shower. And I woke up in the morning and did some exercise. Oh my God. It was fucking
that must
great.
Have been so nice.
Oh man, like, especially at a LARP like this, like I need to like be out of that environment and away from people. Because it starts to fucking get to me if I spend too much time with people.
It's something that I noticed because like it's nowhere near similar. But when I did Bastion, we were sleeping rough in it was basically. I mean, I'll post a picture online comparing it, but basically there was no privacy, and I could have had privacy. I could have brought a tent, but I didn't because I thought there was a mix up slightly. But it's really interesting when you don't have that space where you can just be yourself.
Yeah.
So the hotel must be so nice.
I live alone, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I spend most of my time by myself. And I think that's something that's like, you get used to it and quite enjoy it, having your own private space. I don't know what it's like for other people who have like a family with kids running around everywhere and you get no privacy. They want to come in and watch you poop, for example. I don't know, like some of the stories my friends have.
Sometimes dogs do that as well. Like I used to have a dog that like insisted on staring at us while we were on the loo. It was really weird. Apparently it's a protection thing though.
What do you mean?
Like, it's because when you're going to, I don't know why we're talking about this, but it's like you're in a vulnerable state when you're going to the loo.
I'm in a very vulnerable state.
So pack animals will watch each other when they're doing it to make sure that they're looked after to do it.
Millie, I would watch you poop if it made you feel safe.
Don't worry.
No, actually, I take that back. I take that back immediately. It's funny, but I don't want there to be I don't want that to be like, Dave, watch me poop. No. And I'll be like, no!
You're never going to watch me poop.
Oh my God. I'm literally never... I hope I never see you poop.
Yeah.
That reminds me at the last Empire event.
God.
Dave Moff Turner went to the Portaloos and I waited like 10 seconds and then I banged on the side of the thing. I would never do that to anyone else. Honestly, so funny.
How did he react?
Not well.
Oh God.
Not well at all. He was not a happy boy. I don't know what he was doing at that stage, but it was...
It's a vulnerable stage.
Such a bastard.
You really are.
Really made me laugh though.
Oh, we
really
love you, David.
Yeah, he's the best. Right. Oh,
okay, Francis.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a thing here. What do you want to change in the world? This is like a character help motivation thing. And it says, they already lost all of their dreams of a better world. Then also nearly lost all hope for themselves. They just...
Page turn.
Really hope they can provide a better world for their children.
Oh.
I know.
Francis.
Francis is... I love Francis. He's a big believer in hard work.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as in the real world, hard work just ain't enough sometimes, right? Like, people below a certain poverty line have to work harder than anyone else, and they get paid the absolute least. Like, it's and Francis was all of that. So Francis was trying to turn his life around, but he's an addict, so this obviously works.
Is this before or after his wife had died?
This is now. Okay. This is coming into the event.
Okay.
So Francis is trying really hard right now to try and stay sober and try and support his family.
Yeah.
Especially in the Ember's not working. We got a payout from the death of Ember's partner, which meant that we all had a bit of money in our pockets. Yeah. Francis got paid the least. I think that's probably the right decision. Yeah. Because Francis is gonna piss that money up the fucking wall. Yeah. So he's not working, but he keeps talking about how he's got like a get rich quick scheme type thing. Is the vibe, right? Like he's got this big plan of how we'll never need to worry about money again. And it's just like it's got like all the whole signs of like terrible decision making. Yeah. And okay. I make money by cleaning the apartment. So I clean apartment block A and B.
And A, I'm guessing, because it's A.
Nice.
It's nice, right?
It's nice.
They're the ones with the beds.
Yeah, they're not even the ones on the top floor because the top floor might leak and rain. So they're a floor below the top floor. We're on the top floor.
No.
Yeah, like it's that sort of vibe. Like it's really... And their stuff is nice. Yeah. So one of the things when I got there, they had crutches next to my bed with my gear. Yeah. And I hadn't thought about Francis having any sort of limitation on movement. But I was like, no, we're going to do it this time. We're going to go hard. So people joked about like watching me and being like, oh my god, Dave has gone full what's the word for it? Method. Method. Because everywhere I went on my crutch, and it took me fucking 20 minutes to get from one side of the building to the other. Stairs are fucking awful.
The accessibility is fucking useless. Man, it's so bad.
And I want to caveat this with saying, like, I have recently, in the last 5 years, had to use a wheelchair at times. I've been in and out of hospital. I've had lots of surgeries, all sorts of bullshit. So people that know me know that I've had like a fair amount of stuff. So I'm not saying this as like, so for those that with disabilities, I don't want to be like diminishing your stuff. And if I sound like I am, I apologise.
You were using the crutches as a tool to access your character rather than...
Let me put it this way. I've had my own relationships with drugs and alcohol. I've had my own physical disabilities. A lot of the stuff that I was drawing on, I've had problems with my family. A lot of the stuff I was drawing on for Francis's character were very personal to me. Yeah. But I was doing it in a really responsible and healthy way, and but like it, I went really far down. Yeah. So Francis is... So there were rules I set for myself. Okay. I'm quite open and good at social cues. I wasn't always like that. Like, so what I did was I turned my anxiety and my social awkwardness up to 11. Yeah. So I avoided eye contact all the time. Yeah. Like if you're talking to me, I would literally look at the floor.
Oh my god.
I would... at the start of the event, I went to the medical area to try and get some painkillers for my leg, and instead of being like, oh, hello there, I'm here to get this, I literally just went into the room and stood there and waited for everyone else to stop their conversation, and then someone approach me before I would speak. I would never drive the conversation. Someone would have to interact with me before I talk to them.
Did that make you feel uncomfy or no?
It was interesting how quickly Francis disappeared into the background. Yeah. Like it was, I was like a little grey man, and like even me hobbling down the really long corridors, people would rush past me and ignore me. Like, one of the times I went into the hospital, I kind of stood there, and then someone walked in and just started talking straight away, just as they were about to deal with me, and they did all of that stuff first, and then I just stood there until someone finally came to me. It was really interesting. I'll talk about this probably a bit later on, thinking about community and how people fall through the cracks of community and need help. And like, Francis is one of those people that, like, he had people in his life, fortunately, that were there as part of the community to help him, but the rest of society they felt sorry for Francis. But really, no one really wants to actually fix Francis. They just want to, like, I don't know. It's
almost like if you don't know how to deal with somebody who is socially awkward or does not understand those cues, then you kind of just, you yourself tend to, like, try not to interact, right? Not
making eye contact with someone is rude.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, and people would take me not making eye contact with them as me being rude.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see it, like, how interactions happened with people. Or they'll be like, "Are you okay?" And I'll be like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, always my voice was like, yeah. I'll be really monosyllabic. The more in pain and the more hurt or the more nervous I was, the less I said. And that obviously just isolated me even more. It was really dark. Really dark. Yeah, but it was so beautiful. Anyway. So, time in.
Okay.
There's a gunfight.
On time in?
At time in. So it starts with us in our room. There's me, Rudy, and Ember. Rudy and me are tidying up the room. Bear in mind, I'm on my crutch, just trying to shuffle around and tidy stuff up. Rudy's being amazing as always and, like, setting everything up. But Ember's sitting on the table and he's just being like, "What are you doing? This place is a shithole. When I get this job, when I get this money in, we won't have to deal with this. We're gonna have people to do this for us," and blah blah blah. And basically, it's like just a classic day in the Gessel household, right? And then we hear gunshots.
Oh God!
So we rush out to the window, and there is a shootout between. It was either I think it was our local gang, but basically a mercenary unit.
Okay.
Which are like they're kind of just bastards, right? They're literally mercenaries. They're hired killers, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're also very heavily armed. So they get ambushed, and then they come into Lacage, and after this gun battle happens, they run off and hide in one of the rooms as a hideout.
Okay.
So, but as I'm looking out the window, oh yeah, we also did this. Oh God, I'm so sorry. We did a thing where we did speed dating with important characters at the start.
Again, a workshop. Okay.
And actually, I'll just tell the story, but it was really good. Those were amazing moments, like sitting down with someone and having a chat. I got to spend a lot of time with Tony and a few of the other key characters, which was really, really important. But I'm looking out the window, and I see Marie.
Okay. Marie is
my daughter,
your daughter,
who's estranged.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, who Tony effectively raised.
Yeah.
And now she's back and she's wearing a RCM uniform.
Yeah. Oh.
So I am looking outside and I'm like, it's Marie.
Yeah.
Marie's come home.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh.
And it's like, and
poor little Francis.
Ember's like, she left us without saying a fucking word.
Yeah.
Fuck her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I won't have you. We're a family.
Yeah.
Okay. And we spoke about Rain as well, and how Ember was really mad at Rain for leaving.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know, don't make the same mistakes that I did. You know, like.
And Rain is Ember's
child.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but obviously, Francis, having seen Marie, like, this is huge. This is so big. This might be a chance for him to, like, redemption or apologize and make things right, you know? Like, so Francis, oh God, this is so dark. It's harrowing. Harrowing is the word. It's not dark. So if you collect 10 bottles and hand them into the thrift shop or the shop, they will give you one, I can't remember what the money's called, but one unit of money, right? So I'm like, it's time to go to my job, my cleaning job. So I literally go around and try and get as many bottles as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm cleaning everywhere, and I'm like hauling these things. And bear in mind, like, it's really fucking hard carrying. Oh, I had a plastic bag with me, which I'm so happy I bought with me. I bought a little Tesco's bag, and I would just fill it with these bottles and like clunk my way to the shop, which took me 25 minutes to do.
Yeah.
And then I would hand them in. They'll give me this like tiny bit of change.
Yeah.
And then I saw this teddy bear in the pawn shop.
Yeah.
And I was like, how much for the teddy bear? And they were like, so I handed all of these bottles, and they were like, oh, good for this. And I was like, oh, I'll come back with more bottles. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went off, and I was collecting on more and more bottles, and I brought them back, and I finally had enough money to buy the bear.
Yeah.
I still had the money from the thing, but I was like, no, I want to earn this.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very Francis thing to earn the money for the gift.
Because he's a hard worker, right?
Yeah. So, but first, I had to go to my AA meeting.
Okay. Oh, so you're like a reformed alcoholic at this point.
It's not really like it. Francis is trying.
Okay.
Okay. And this is when I should introduce some really important characters that I haven't mentioned before, which are actually the unseen.
Oh yeah, I saw that on the list, and I was like, what the hell is
very
that?
cool. So I don't want to go too much into what the unseen are, but I'll talk about them in the kind of way they were described to us at the start of the game, which is, so for example, there's like the drunkard. Okay. And the drunkard is a guy who maybe you see around the place, you just don't remember his name, but he's one of those people, right?
Yeah.
Like there's like the rat king or the collector who walks around with a shopping trolley, and they're in the background, but occasionally they come and talk to people, right? And when they do, it's like a little personal chat. They whisper to you, and they basically talk to you and have a conversation with you and try and guide you in certain ways. So there were really amazing ones throughout. The big ones I had in my life were Corrosion, or the party team.
Yeah.
I had the Drifter. And I had the Social Worker / Dolores. Dolores is the lady with the golden lungs, by the way. So the Social Worker, who's like, so just a brief thing. Like Corrosion is kind of like kind of wants to party. The drunkard just wants you to have a really good time. Yeah. Kind of is like reacting off your emotions.
Players or like more
players?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
God, that must be.
They were incredible.
Yeah.
Like they were amazing. We had the Street Martyr.
Yeah.
They were so lovely and sweet and awesome. I think that's about the ones that were really influential on me. But bear in mind, like all of these people have like, all the unseen have people that they will go and talk to and go and see.
Yeah.
So they have a list of people who, and basically I spoke to, the drunkard was Harry Knight.
Yeah.
And I know Harry, and I trust him implicitly. So when we were talking, it was just like, I said to him like, here are a list of things that will really upset Francis.
Yeah.
Here are the things that are like triggers for him, right? We went through loads of stuff, and I wrote him a list of things, right? Like one of them was like, people would be better off without you. People are better off without you being in their lives. Like you'll never be free of alcohol. Like just give up.
I guess having a character that deals with alcoholism, like and struggles with it, and having a character that's literally called the drunkard, like
there's more to the drunkard than just he wants to make you drink. It's more like he enjoys emotion and people being free and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of these, like if like I'm going to describe them badly because there's a lot more nuance to all of these characters, and I think the players that actually played these characters were pretty exceptional. Specifically the Drifter, which is someone who I don't think, actually no, I don't even want to be specific because the social worker, they were all amazing, like all of them, but then they all had this little part of my story. Anyway, so at the AA meeting, there's Corrosion. There's also, I think, who else was there? Anyway, a few of these characters are there, and we go to this AA meeting, and it's like, there's a person called Dr. Kai, who's the kind of He's an immigrant, but a doctor, and he's there running this AA program.
Okay.
And like, I've never done AA, but it was done in a very similar format. We all come in, we have a little pamphlet, we all sit down, and then we go through our kind of tenets, which are like, first of all, we go through and go like, I trust everyone here. This is a safe place. Yeah. We have a partner who's our person who's like a sober buddy.
Yeah.
I had a guy called Ari, who was the son of the people that owned the pawn shop, and they're very, very
nice.
they're fairly well off.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of classism thing there. Like, his family tended to look down on Francis. Like, at one point, Francis is hobbling along, and I did the old fall. Just to make it even more awful. So I fall down, and Ari and his brother are there, and Ari's like, "Oh, Francis," and comes running to pick me up, and his brother's like, "Do you even know him? How do you know him?" Like,
oh god, you can't then admit that to your brother, because then you admit it that you're in
that we're breaking the
group,
confidence
right?
of the thing. So he has to kind of like play it off, and like just heartbreaking. But in the AA meeting are a bunch of different characters. Like, we had one person there who had been told to go to the AA meetings by their wife and didn't want to be there and was being really narky about it. Like, I'm only here because of this.
Yeah.
And the role play in those sessions were like, the first one, I don't think we did any of the kind of the thoughts and stuff, but we had kind of like welcome in, and we had a hug and all this stuff. It was nice. And then we went through the tenets, and basically the idea is that you start off at 1 and you have to work your way through to 10, but you're not going to make your way all the way through to 10. So sometimes you might get to 4, and sometimes you might get to 5, sometimes you might only get to 3, but this is like important. And so that was my opening salvo, by the way.
So opening straight after time in, you go to your AA meeting.
Yeah.
Then you return to your flat and you're tidying.
No. The tidying was the first thing we did. And then I went to the hospital to go and get my painkillers, which was really awkward because I stood there and like everyone's doing their thing, doing their stuff, and then finally someone noticed me and were like, "Oh, Francis, are you okay?" And they were really busy doing other things. And I was just like, I came to get my pain medication, because I spoke to the doctor and there wasn't like a file on me or anything. So we were like, hey, I'm probably going to come by so I can do my job, because I need to have a painkiller because my leg's so buggered that like just to get me moving. So they gave me a painkiller and off I went, basically. Really, really cool. Love the Doctor's RP. So after missioning around and trying to get enough money to buy this bear, little cuddly toy bear, I get it, and then I see Marie in the corridor,
still wearing the militia.
Yeah, she's in the police uniform with her police friends.
Oi!
And I hobble up there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's really nice to see you, and I didn't expect you to come back, and I'm stumbling over everything. I'm being like, oh, this went a lot better in my head before I said it, but like all this stuff, and it's really, really heavy.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I got you a gift. It's like Bear. You remember Bear? Like, I'm saying it's like a toy that she had when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you can take it though. And she was like, really didn't want to take the bear. And I was like, oh, please just take the bear. Just take it. And then she ends up taking the bear. And then she's like, okay, cool. And I was just like, well, it's really nice to see you. And like, I know Ember would like to see you, and Rudy and Rain. Like, if you want to come by the flat at any point, like you're always welcome and all this stuff. And it's just like, she's been so hurt by Francis, and it's like, the fucking feels words. God. It was so, it hurt so much. But then, God, it's really bad.
Okay.
So a little time later, I'm still hobbling around looking for my bottles.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little thirsty, but every single time I pass the bar, I have to I don't look at the bar every single time I walk past, and I kind of have to try and hurry past the bar because I don't want to go inside and all of that stuff. And the drunkard is there going like, it's thirsty work, this, isn't it? Like,
oh God,
you've been working so hard. Like, why don't you go and get a beer and hang out with Tony or whatever and all this stuff, right? And I'm just like, no, but I loved it because it was like this little voice in
That's
like
the little demon on your shoulder, right?
Yeah, to everyone else, Francis is just literally hobbling around and just looks a bit uncomfortable, but inside his own mind he's having this war of like will to just try and fucking stay sober, especially seeing that Marie's back, that he wants to really prove that he's changed and trying really hard. So I see my friend Tony in the bar, and I'm like, Tony, like, and he comes over and goes, oh, come in. And I'm like, I'm standing on the threshold, like, no, I don't want to come in. And then he's just like, oh, well, what's up? And he's just like, I was like, could you get me a lemonade? Because I'm really thirsty. And he goes, yeah, sure, Francis. And I was like, I'll pay you the money. He said, oh, don't worry, Francis. I'll do it. So he goes off. I'm with Ember at this point.
Yeah.
He comes back and hands it to me, and I deliberately don't look at the label and just start drinking it.
Yeah.
And then when it touches my lips, I realise it's a beer.
No!
So I already drunk half of it, and then Francis just makes it and just finishes the rest of it there and then. Like, I literally chugged a giant bottle of pop.
Oh my God.
I don't have that much sugar at the moment.
Yeah.
And it had a dramatic effect on me, I'll tell you that much. I felt hammered.
So like, it was literally like OC. It was
it was a dry event. There was no alcohol there,
God,
apart from on when we actually had a party on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
This is on the Thursday, but we started playing the game. So I chug this beer.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's so bad. It's so awful. And then I go down. It's food time, and like, my leg hurts less. Yeah. I'm social. I'm chatting. I'm making jokes. Right?
Francis.
Like, and Francis is like happy.
Yeah.
Because this is the only time that he is happy when he's just had alcohol, right? Like at that beautiful golden period where you're like an hour or whatever in of being drunk. So I'm chatting. I meet Rain's friends who are lovely. I meet her friend Blue and some of the other sewer people, and I'm like saying like, you're always welcome, and I'm sorry about your father. You know, you're getting older now. You have to realize that we're just people trying our best type thing. I'm going through all this stuff, but I'm drunk.
Yeah.
And then I head upstairs and I go back to the bar.
Okay.
And they don't have any beer left, so I get wine.
Whoa.
And then I go to sit by myself in the bar drinking wine, and I'm singing that song from Jaws. I'm tired and I want to go home. Oh. I'm tired, I want to go to bed. Drink the bad. I'm having like a party by myself. Yeah. And they were like, people came by and were like, are you okay, Francis? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm drinking with my 3 favourite people, me, myself and I. And I'm like joking and all this stuff like this, and it's fucking horrible. Yeah. It's really horrible, by the way. And then so I end up going, I see that there's a like a block council meeting. Yeah. So I go to the block council meeting and I'm drunk and I'm really badly behaved to the point where they literally had to be like, hey, you have to leave. And I'm like fucking and I'm like going around, I'm picking up bottles as I'm leaving and then dropping them and then picking them. I'm just nightmarish. And then so I finish my wine and I go back and get another wine. And then I bump into Rudy and I'm trying to sell more bottles, and then Ari walks in because
Ari's your sober companion.
And Ari's like, "So, Francis, are you drunk?"
No.
And I'm like, "Oh, Ari," and it's like moment of like realization of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I do the lid on the bottle, and you know, like how when is it Lord of the Rings where instead of passing the ring, he just drops it. Like, I can't even bring myself to pass it, but I hold it out and I just drop it and then I walk. Yeah. Okay? And it's like, oh my God. And like, Marie's back. And I was going like, how are you drinking? It says like, oh, my friend Tony, he played this hilarious joke on me. Like I said, I wanted a lemonade and he gave me a beer because he just wants me to have a good time. But he's such a good friend. He's like hilarious. Yeah. What a hilarious prank. And it's so it's so awful. Yeah. And then Rudy helps me downstairs because there's the church services coming up, and I end up walking across the thing, and then I'm like, ooh, I end up throwing up in the courtyard. You know, not real, but like just as Francis, because he's just drunk a bottle and a half of wine and a beer, right? and like he's starting to sober up, and he's in a hell of a state. I'm at the back of the church, and oh man, it kills me just thinking about it now. I just started crying.
Yeah.
I'm at the back of the church on these pews, and Dr. Kai comes over. Is it Kai? Yeah, Kim. Sorry. They put their arm around me.
Yeah.
And I'm sobbing, and I don't know where all this emotion is coming from. It's just like I'm so into this character and everything that's just happened. I'm just sobbing.
Yeah.
And Dr. Kim puts his arm around me, and then they also just start crying.
Yeah.
They're crying on me, and we're both sharing this like such a tender moment of like just despair and having given up and failed, and like just sorry, I'm a bit emotional even thinking about it. I didn't think this would happen, but it's like, man, it was so beautiful in its despair. And like how even when Francis is trying, he still fucks up. And and this is like the most important day, right? Because Marie is back. So
it must have been so overwhelming though as well, because like you must have been like the thought processes and blaming and either yourself or like Tony for giving you the beer. Like
I think it's more like Francis isn't like that. He has his issues with Tony and sometimes yell, but like really the person that he's mad at is himself. Because he's the one that makes bad decisions and ends up destroying the people around him. And like the realization that it's just like, it doesn't matter if you try, you're always going to fail. Like, and this true despair. Character I haven't brought up yet, which is the priest. So there's a priest of the church, and this guy played. It was his first LARP. There were a bunch of first-time LARPers there, which was fucking insane. No, they were amazing. Holy crap!
But what a fucking LARP to choose as your first one.
Agreed. Like I was like, you do know that you're not only going to like the cream of the crop. Like this is some of the best LARPs in the world that you're enjoying right now. But one of the heaviest. Like this is really heavy stuff. But the priest. Oh my god! I could talk for hours on what a priest does in a community and why they're important. And why having someone to be the priest, someone that's other from society, that can interact with its community and help people that are isolated or in need. It was like, and bear in mind, by the way, I'm not religious, by the way, but like that process of what a priest is was really interesting, and the player did it so well. Anyway, the priest starts talking, and Marie's there. Marie sat at the front of the church.
Okay, so you're in a church service at this point.
I'm at a church service. I'm still
sobering up
and crying and being comforted by Dr. Kim, and I think Ember was there. Anyway, it was really emotional. I kind of went very inward at a lot of times, so I don't really know everyone that was around me. The priest starts the service, and then he goes through a bunch of stuff, and then he says, does anyone have anything they would like to say to the group? And I like stumble up and I like walk, and it's so slow, it's like clank, clank,
oh god,
clank, and it takes me like, it feels like forever to get to the front. And I stand in front of the people, and I'm already starting to cry again, and I was just like, I'm so tired. And I've let myself down, I've let my family down, and it's like and then someone yells out, because it's like, you know, some people are not like, some people are just, you know, like that, and then like, what did you do? And like the priest is like, oh, don't, and I was just like, I look up, eyes streaming, and I'm just like, I'm a drinker, you know, in front of everyone, and Marie's there, and I say like, you know, I lost my wife and I miss her so much, and I wish she was here, but then at the same time I wish she would isn't here because if she saw me now, it would break her heart.
Oh, poor little Frances.
I know, and I'm saying about how she was the best person I've ever met, and I said, well, actually, she's the second best person I've met. And I look at Marie, and it's like, it's really, really heavy, and eventually it ends, and I think Marie maybe came and sat with me. She did! After the service, she went and sat with me. And I was like, she was talking to me, and I was just like, you need to, I was like, she was talking about her being here and how long she's going to be here for, and I was just like, you should leave.
Yeah.
You should leave this place. Like, this place destroys our family.
Yeah.
And I want you to break the cycle. It's like that thing where if you love someone, you should let them free.
Yeah.
And it was like, I've loved you selfishly.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for everything like that, and I wish I was a better father, and I wish I was there for you, but I haven't been able to be. But I am so proud of you and who you are and what you've become. But you have to get away from here. And it was like fucking heavy. I did find out later that she actually, because I saw the teddy bear with somebody else.
Yeah.
She had pawned it because people had asked her about the teddy bear, like the other people. Yeah, and like the other RNC people were like, "What's the bear about?" So she had to like hide it and then got rid of it.
Poor little thing.
Yeah, pretty heavy. So that night, there's a we're going on to positive stuff now. By the way,
good.
Frances is wandering around. I'm very aimless at this point. I'm just in a real dark cloud. And then I see Frances and a few of her friends running around.
Frances?
Oh, sorry, not Frances. Rudy.
Rudy.
And I'm like, I wonder what Rudy's up to. So I come along. And Rudy is with a bunch of really cool characters. And they're playing this game.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you see this portal. Okay, and they're like, I'm gonna investigate it, and they get a D20, and they roll it, and they're like, I got this, and they're like, and then the person's like DMing, and then they're like, okay, cool, right, and then they go, I jump into the portal, and then the other person jumps to the portal, and they go, right, let's go somewhere else, and it's like this, they're playing like this weird form of D&D, and it was, oh my god, I wanted it to be
so wholesome.
It was so wholesome. I wish I was like a young character, but like Frances was just like sat there at the back of the room watching it, just kind of like, that's fucking great. Like,
there must be such like if somebody that believes the world is broken, like seeing that little bit of pure happiness,
just
and, like,
joy and separation from the misery of what it is, and creativeness and like friendship that they were having. It was so wonderful, and exactly what Frances needed.
Yeah.
Frances also likes gambling, by the way.
Oh, good.
So there was a game being played that night, and there was like a very select group of people who went down to the sewers to play this game. Okay, and it was like a card game. The rules were incredibly overly complicated. Like the scoring system was like ludicrously complicated, especially for a game that should be, it's not a pick-up game. You have to kind of go through the rules, and even then some of it's a bit overly complicated. I don't know if it's because we're obviously thinking about other things. It took a while for the game to get going. I stayed there for one full game, but then I was like, I'm not really enjoying this. I'm tired. It's getting to midnight. The gambling den was really cool, by the way. There was like, lots of different characters that you wouldn't expect. Just like the AA meeting, lots of characters that you wouldn't expect to interact. So there was like I'll mention one character, Donnie, who was like part of the workers' union, who's basically a gangster.
Yeah.
Okay, and him and Donnie, him and Frances are like having like little bants back and forwards, and it's fun because it's like Donnie's like young and thinks he's fucking invincible, and drinking and having fun, and it's just like whereas Frances is like the cautionary tale of how that ends. I really loved every interaction with Donnie. Some players have an ability to take a conversation that we're having and just build in subtext without saying a fucking word, like nothing spoken, but the subtext of it, there was just mountains and mountains of subtext every time we talked to each other about our relationship. It was like we'd known each other for, and this idea of like, a bit of a masculine space where we play cards together and blah blah blah, and there's a bit of like that kind of relationship where things aren't said out loud but they're felt by other people by the way we interact. Anyway, I get a bit like kind of like bored of playing this card game, so I decide to leave. And as I'm thinking about going home, I go to the Bearded Dragon nightclub.
Oh no.
Well, I walk in there and it's empty.
Okay.
There's just the owner, and they're like, "Oh, we're closed." And I'm like, "Oh, do you mind if I just stay for a little while?" Because in my head I'm like, Francis probably loved dancing when he was younger.
Yeah.
So I go in and I sit in the corner and I just enjoy the music. I'm kind of swaying backwards and forwards. I'm thinking about like happier times, like maybe when I was with my wife and other happy occasions. And I stand up and I'm leaning on my crutch and I'm just swaying backwards and forwards. And there's this like big melancholy thing, and it's like a real, like the music's playing, the lights going around, and I'm just, lost in my own little world of like what had happened, and looking back, and it's very melancholy, and it was so lovely. And then when I was leaving, I just said to the owner like, "Oh, thank you so much." And like the other player just got exactly what was happening and was just like, "You're welcome here anytime you like.
Yeah.
Just you're always welcome here." And I was just like, "Thank you so much." Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I wandered off, and then I ended up going to bed. And luckily, as I'm leaving, the lady that was playing Marie was also leaving. Nice. So we walked back to the hotel together, so you had like a nice little and had and it was just like both of us were like, holy guacamole. Yeah. Like that was intense. Like we both had pretty similar, like we both had like a lot of people in this game had like real world stuff to draw on, and it was like yet another example of how incredible LARP can be by having these interactions.
Did the game creators take any kind of OC triggers and past that you had into consideration when giving you your characters?
So when you're choosing your character, you get to choose. So in fact, I can look at the top of my thing to give you some examples of what I'm talking about.
For anybody who doesn't see on an audio only podcast, it's basically like
I'm gonna explain.
No, I know, but it's an A5 booklet that's got all of his details in it that we talked about very briefly, but it's really cool. It's actually
not even in there, so I'm gonna have to keep looking. Bot B, that's what I am, that's my face, my stupid face.
Oh my god.
So it says here, safety, cult-like behaviour and mental illness is some of the things.
Okay.
The gender is unisex.
Okay.
So Francis could be a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
Boy or a girl just sounds so juvenile.
A man or a woman.
Man or a woman, there we go.
Or anything in between.
Additional fields. Age, old. Romance is a 2, so it goes from 1 to 5.
Okay.
So romance is a 2. Addiction is a 5.
Yeah.
Violence is a 2. Surrealism is a 4. And creation is a 3. And I'm like, this is a really good grading system because you kind of know what you're opting in for. If you don't like violence, well, don't choose a character.
Violence character.
Right. If you have concerns about addiction, then don't play a character that has 5 in addiction or whatever. I really like this, and the way they do it, I think, is really, really good because, like, at Legion and a few other and this game, I think especially, is like the way they do that processing is player led. But they're the ones that assign people. And I think it's really interesting to see how the types of people that gravitate towards the characters really fit. Yeah. And at this point, I think after the workshops and after the Thursday, we were a community.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like a community. There's like 97 players plus the unseen, which I think there were like 10 of them. But it felt like we were actually like a community, So, shall we take a little breather before we go on any further? Because I've been talking for a really long time already. Yeah. So, Do you want to do the outro?
Yeah, well, you got to say thank you so much to all of our Patreons first.
No, I know. I'm not involved. I've got no skin in the game anymore.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much to all of our Patreons. You guys help keep the podcast going by helping us cover our hosting fees and all the other various different things that are associated with running a high-stress podcast.
I'll say it because I'm no longer involved in that side of things. We don't even break even. This podcast literally used to cost me money and now actually costs Millie money. So
it's worth it. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I get to sit here and talk to you about various stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go on one of these things.
You should.
I
It's
really
amazing.
want to.
But so like bear in mind everyone's fucked for money because our generation is absolutely fucked. But if you have some extra shackles in your pocket and you want to give £2 a month to try and help Millie cover the costs, we really appreciate it.
Anything is welcome, but not necessary, because either way, I'm really enjoying this. Is fun times. But I haven't got the list with me, so just thank you to all of our Patreons this week. You're all incredible and wonderful.
Thank you to insert Patreon.
And thank you for everybody who interacts with us on social media, comments on our posts. You're all wonderful. I love you all very dearly. I can't wait to hear more about the heartbreaking story of Francis. It's so sad. But it's so It's like so heartwarming. Oh, mate.
It gets happier and sadder.
Oh,
so.
good. Well, let's go, shall we?